I'm Brandon Smith, and I'm the workplace therapist. My entire purpose and passion in life is one singular thing, and that's to help you live a life free from dysfunction. And let's be honest, folks, dysfunction is everywhere. Our bosses, our coworkers, our neighbors, even that grumpy barista that pours your coffee. And sometimes, that dysfunction stares back at us in the face when we're getting ready in the mornings and we see ourselves in the mirror. Well, at the end of the day, life and work should not have to suck. The purpose of this show is to help you overcome those roadblocks in your life to help you realize the life you've always wanted. This is the Brandon Smith Show. I am your host, Brandon Smith, and the entire purpose of this show is one singular thing, and that is to help you live life that's just a little bit better and a little less dysfunctional. And so for today, our show today is going to be one of our alternating weeks. We are going to be doing a leadership therapy show today. So to help us with that, I've got my wonderful co-host, Whitney. Whitney, say hello.
Hello, everyone.
You're grumpy because you don't have your chips. Whitney has to typically eat chips on my show for her to feel comfortable. And so she doesn't have her chips. But today's topic is a very specific one, and I think it relates really, really well to this season of the year. We are going to talk about something very fundamental to all of us, but often gets screwed up, and that is how to take a vacation. Okay, now this may seem like an obvious statement to you, but believe me, I tell you, I can see more and more often people screw this up, and it either costs them promotions, costs them steps in their career, might even cost them their job. So we're going to talk about the right way and wrong way to do this. So Whitney, I think we should talk about this idea of vacations.
So what do? They like start wearing flip-flops in the office 3 days before they leave for Florida, or what's going on?
Okay, so when you think of a vacation,
yes.
Well, where'd you normally go? Like, how long would you think a vacation should last? What would you do on vacation? Tell me a little bit about that.
I'd say about a week.
About a week? Okay.
Yes. And I don't know, was that a question?
That was a question. How
Okay.
long? And you said
Okay.
a week. That was a good answer.
Did. That would be really nice. It's been a while since I've taken a week-long vacation, but that would be ideal.
Well, and to be fair, you're now in an entrepreneurial lifestyle.
True.
So entrepreneurs can take vacation whenever they want to. That's what everyone says, right? It's great. We can take
Yeah.
vacations whenever we want to.
It's another show.
And yet, do we ever take vacations?
Yeah.
Not really. But
No.
that's part of that. How do you feel about a 2 or 3 week vacation? Have you ever taken those before?
I have not. I
think she would want to.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Like in my mind, I have one at some point in my life. Like I would love for us to go to like England.
So you said us. So the other voice that I'd like to have appear on this show is the voice of our producer, Isaac.
I'm here.
There he is.
He's here, but
There's
he's not
Isaac.
here.
He's joining us. So for those of you who are listening, you can hear Isaac just fine. But for those of you who are watching this, you can't see Isaac because he's in our production studio in the other room, and he's producing everything that we're doing here.
I think now they can hear inside your head what's going on now with my voice.
That is true. It's a little spooky.
Slightly.
So here's the thing about vacations. It used to be, okay, if we rolled the clock back, I don't know, 20, 30 years, and before that, people took 2 to 3 week vacations in the United States. Now, if we went to Europe, they take holidays, and holidays are typically much longer than 3 week vacations. But in the United States, our culture is not one of vacations. But in the past, you took 2 to 3 week vacations. Okay. Now, I would call those today, I'm going to offer you 2 different kinds of terminologies for vacations. One is a sabbatical vacation, and then one is more like an interval training recharge vacation. Okay. So sabbatical vacation would be our 2 to 3 week vacations. So when you think of a sabbatical, what do you think of, Whitney?
I mean, I feel like when that word is used, we're talking about like maybe you've just had a child and you're taking an extended time off. Like when I think sabbatical, it doesn't really have a good connotation. It feels like it has a bad connotation. So it's almost like you're not taking a vacation, you're leaving because you have to. Like life warrants that you take that time.
Interesting. That's a good perspective. That it's more of I have to take a break. I have to take a rest and recharge. But now I think you could see a value in that. right?
Absolutely. Yeah, because
Yeah.
like we just said, I mean, a lot of people, and I know you're going to touch on this, but a lot of people aren't taking vacations anymore. They're
Yeah.
just not doing it.
And there are times, particularly when I talk to whether it's listeners over the phone or other folks who are dealing with issues who write to me, when they get to that breaking place, a sabbatical vacation is really good because you can unplug, you can get renewed, you can really because sometimes it takes up to a week to really have all that negative emotional energy to just really flush out of the system and really allow you to be fully present. I mean, how many of us have gone on long vacations, like a week, and we just got into the vacation mode when it was time to come back. Yeah. So sabbatical is really, really good. There's a value in that. It really allows you to gain perspective, maybe even go explore new cultures and do some things like that. So I like it.
Real quick.
Yes.
Sabbatical.
Yeah.
Does that mean I shouldn't be checking my email and looking at my
That's
phone?
a good point. Yes. You should really not be.
Okay.
You should really be unplugged.
See, I think that's the hard part.
That is the really hard part. Now, here's why this matters in particular today for the show. So when I teach in the full-time MBA program, when I've got those classes and I'll talk to students about how to take vacations, many of them are very stunned and surprised by the notion that they should not take a 2 to 3 week vacation in the first year after graduation. So they walk in, they take a job, and we're talking 6-figure jobs. And they'll take a job and then already have their vacation scheduled to take 3 weeks off 3 months after they start working.
So it's kind of one of those things, they go in for the interview and they're like, yeah, I would love this job. By the way, I've already got a vacation in July. I need to have that off.
And what signal do you think that sends?
No, it's almost like asking when you're in the interview, so by the way, how much am I going to get paid?
Yeah.
It's bad.
It's like, this is about me. It's not showing, it's showing it's about me. I'm taking my vacation. This is going to be great. You're going to pay me a lot of money, all these great things. It's not saying, no, I really want to dedicate my time and invest here and learn about everything that's going on. So what I often tell those students is, and this would be true for anybody starting a new job, in the first year, you should not take a vacation longer than 1 week. You should not. It sends the wrong signal. And not to mention that, what if you're gone for those 2 to 3 weeks and all of a sudden people say, well, you know what? We really didn't miss her. That's not good either.
It's dangerous.
That's very dangerous. Like they might say, we missed the fact that she ate chips every day. But other than that, we don't. I had to throw that in there just for Whitney. Her
Next time it's
chips.
happening.
I know.
Maybe a
she's gonna do it.
cake. I'm feeling cake today.
Really?
So maybe on the
Really?
next one, just, right there.
At least that wouldn't be loud. But okay.
You know what? I'm not sharing.
That's okay. Okay. All right. So sabbaticals. So we
Yes.
talked about the purpose of sabbaticals, and that's really important, really good and healthy for us to do that. But it's best if you've already if I was to prescribe it, I would say wait until you've been working in a place for at least 3 years until you think about a sabbatical vacation.
Okay.
And again, just to define that, we're talking more than 2 weeks gone. So those 2 to 3 week vacations where you want to go to another country or, you really want to unplug on a beach somewhere. Again, there's value in that. But just like a traditional sabbatical, which is typically every 7 years, and we see that in some realms, we see that typically either in higher education and even some church realms, you have sabbaticals. It's not something that I'd recommend in the traditional workplace unless you at least wait at least 3 years until you do one of those. So you do that, you're going to be in good shape. So there was another one that I mentioned. And this is more this interval training, for lack of a better word, vacation.
So we're going to work really hard for kind of a long time.
Yeah.
And then take a little bit of time off.
Yeah.
So we're kind of getting recharged as
You
we
got
go. I'm good. I like this one.
You got it. This one is the one that's popped up the most often since about 2008, 2009. It's the healthiest and easiest to do. You don't get the full long-term benefits. So I will say that's an issue. But it doesn't cost you the same things. So essentially, there's this whole school of thought today that the best way for us to work because there's so much stuff coming at us all the time, and we're working with such high levels of urgency and pace all the time, at least here in the United States, that to treat it like Olympic athletes train. So you do interval training. So you do bursts and then rest. Bursts and then rest. So in other words, what this would look like from a vacation standpoint is about every quarter, you take a long weekend.
So what's a long weekend? Like we're looking at Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, or
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, something
I
like
like it.
that. So you never actually take a full work week, but you wrap around a weekend.
And I feel that's easier, right? Because at least you're still going in a couple of days in the week. So even though you've taken 4 or 5 days for yourself, you worked a little bit of each week on the front end and the back end. So I feel like it's easier, especially today, it's easier to ease into that instead of just taking a whole couple of weeks.
And it's not that disruptive. Because what will happen is, A, people won't hardly even know you're gone because you're only missing a couple days. And B, you get the benefit of recharging and being away from the office. And you get to use your vacation days. So you can have those breaks. And if you're in an environment that, at least for me, being an entrepreneur, that was the best way for me to take vacations because I could still check emails periodically. So I'm violating one of the unplug rules.
One of your rules.
Because I would check them. But I could take my kids to Disney World and then occasionally, step over the side and check emails, make sure there was no burning fires on a Friday afternoon, which there typically isn't. So people are kind of typically stopping, email stops right around noonish, 1ish on a Friday afternoon and then picks up again Monday at some point. So you end up with the benefit of taking vacation and then it doesn't really cost you other than you don't fully get to unplug. You don't fully get those benefits.
So I'm going to throw you a zinger.
I love zingers.
Because I'm thinking back to a specific situation in my radio career.
Bum,
Okay.
bum, bum.
Oh.
So we had, there was a lady that was on air. She did traffic. And I can't remember why she left. I think maybe she got married. I don't remember. And it was a very popular station. And they had a young gentleman come on and take her place and do traffic while she was gone. So when it was time for her to come back and they took the gentleman off, all the ladies that listened to the radio station wanted to know, where did this gentleman go? So they actually thought maybe she was being replaced. And in fact, she did, because the male voice was so much more popular than her voice. That vacation cost her job. So what can we do in those situations where, especially if it's like our personality or maybe you're the boss, that so much is heavy on you?
So in
that
this
you
case,
risk
it
that?
was a maternity leave, you thought? Because it was an extended period of time.
I think, or maybe she got married.
Could
So
have
it was
been
like
that.
a long honeymoon, I think.
Okay, so those are two different things. I think it's maternity leave. That would be really that's really unfair and a shame. I mean, that would be. But if it was something that she did more by choice, like took a very long vacation, I think you just got to be careful. You got to be careful when you're doing that because, you don't want to inadvertently give someone an opportunity to take your job. Which is why the interval training vacations are much safer.
Right.
You're gone on Friday and Monday. That's completely safe. It's not going to hurt you that much. Now, I think that begs one more important point around vacations. When you're planning on taking your vacation, from a hygiene perspective, whether you're taking one of these interval training ones, which is always easy to pull off, or one of the longer ones especially, give plenty of notice. Tell everybody way in advance, a long time in advance. And make sure you also not only tell your boss and get approval, but as you get closer to the event, communicate more with your coworkers and colleagues so they know, and any potential customers that might need to be reaching out to you, whether
That's a good tip.
internal or external, just so they know. So when you're gone, it's not a surprise. And of course, you can do your out of office if you want to. But a lot of those on those interval ones, I wouldn't even do my out of office. It really wasn't that big of a deal. Yeah. So I think you and Isaac need to be taking a vacation.
I'm thinking about
soon.
it, planning where we're going in my mind
you need
already.
to. You need to. Okay.
Can you bring my sunglasses? I misplaced them.
Yeah, I could see that. All right, so we are at our break. And so when we come back from our break, you have a curveball for me. I can see it in your eyes. We've got a
picked it on
question from a
purpose.
listener, but you've not told me what this is, and you look very smug.
Yep.
So
not
I'm a
going to
little
tell you
nervous.
till we get back.
So hang with us. We'll see. This is either going to work out really well or be a total train wreck. So after the break.
job, plus the right culture, plus the right boss equals workplace happiness. The number one reason people leave jobs is problems with their boss. A horrible boss can make us dread every Monday, but an amazing boss can make us so excited to work that we'd go in on weekends. Finding your perfect boss is not only possible, it's one of the most impactful steps you can take in crafting your perfect career. Visit theworkplacetherapist.com and click on guides to learn how to find and get your perfect boss, whether that means making the decision to move on or turning your current boss into the perfect leader you want them to be. Our bosses have so much influence over our work and our whole day. Working for the right boss alone can be a winning career strategy.
Welcome back from the break. This is the Brandon Smith Show, and this week's segment, we've been covering leadership therapy. In the first segment, we talked about how to take a vacation and the right and wrong ways to do that. In this second segment, Whitney has a question from a listener for me, and you look very mischievous.
It's a zinger.
All right. You said zinger a couple times during the break, and that was all you gave me. And then, other than saying this is going to be a tough one.
Well, I think a lot of people deal with this.
All right.
So here it is.
Let's go.
I'm going to read it to you.
I'm ready.
From a listener, okay? I've been working at the same company since 2008. I've been reporting to the same boss since then. Unfortunately, I did something that I regret tremendously. I became personal friends with my boss. So she talks about how they went out to lunch. We did personal activities together, enjoyed time together. In the year 2010, my boss and I had a rough time. I was moved out of her office due to reorganization, and she started doing things to bother me. So she talks about how she confronted her boss. Hey, what's going on? Why are you treating me this way? The boss says it's nothing. I got relocated to my old office as soon as one of the other admin personnel left, and things went back to normal. She talks about getting rehired, restructuring. Since June, I've been the receptionist, and now no one talks to me. I now help all the other girls since I have been in their roles, but only when they feel overwhelmed. I'm not sure what to do to change this new phase at work. So it sounds like there's been a lot of restructuring. She was friends with her boss, which she regretted. Then there was more restructuring. The boss is kind of acting weird. And now, it almost feels like it's a female thing kind of that's going on in the office, which can be a little bit of a different dynamic than male to female or male to male. But she wants to know, how do I make this change? Because now everybody's kind of treating me weird. So what can she do?
Oh. Do you have another question for me? Can I get another one? Can I hit
Should we just restart this whole segment over?
Do a different question. All right, I'm gonna take this on. No, we can do this.
Oh,
this
real?
Yeah, for real. Of course, I'm gonna take this on.
I'm not gonna. Serious, and I was like, hang on,
I'm not gonna.
Let me look.
No, I got a question.
Okay.
All right, so there's a few dynamics at play. There's some things I don't have answers to, so I'm gonna put out the things I don't have answers to.
I hope you can save this because I botched it.
No, we got this.
Worse than your closing of the show.
Thank you, Whitney. Thank you so much for that. So stay tuned because, yes, I will botch the closing of this segment.
He almost botched the opening.
I almost did. Thank you, Whitney.
What a teammate.
If anyone else would be interested in being a co-host on my show, you could just send it directly to @the therapist.
I'm going to. I have a major workplace issue. I'm sending to the workplace therapist right now.
All right, so let's get back to this question. All right, so we've gone and we've become friends with the boss, and this is this happy, wonderful thing. We did social stuff, and then all of a sudden there was a falling out because we had a personality conflict or whatever it was, and now things are just awkward and weird. And then we now have that spiraling into other people acting awkward and weird towards us. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I will say a couple things. First, I'd be really curious on the male-female percentage in the office. I have found that if this has just been my experience, the closer it gets to 100% female, the more these situations come up, and you can't really recover from it. It's too difficult. It's really healthy to have a nice gender balance, and if it gets too far on either side, you have dynamics that are very gender specific. So I would say if the office was closer to 100% female, her best strategy would be to just hang on as long as she can, but start looking for another opportunity somewhere else, so she can hit the reset button and start over. However, if it's not, maybe there's some other things that she can do. And so ways to improve the dynamic, she said she's already reached out to her boss and talked to her boss about that. I might encourage her to try and rebuild that relationship a little bit and, invite her boss to coffee or lunch, ex-boss, to coffee or lunch, try and rebuild that a little bit. If the boss is not interested, one of the very best ways to kind of ease some of those tensions is to bring in food. Bring in food, bring in drinks. Maybe you bring in people's favorite Starbucks drink. That's a plug for Starbucks, just setting them up as a possible sponsor one day. Okay. Right there, Starbucks. It could be right there. But even donuts, Krispy Kreme is another one, so just right there. Okay, you could do that.
Can we get both of those together?
That would be pretty good. But I find that's a really easy way to mend fences, is to just bring in treats every once in a while for people. And of course, homemade is always ideal because you put in that time and effort.
You just opened up a whole nother can of worms in my mind that I have to ask about.
Well, ask.
Okay. How do we not position that as kissing up to the boss?
Okay. So, let me qualify. So the coffee and the meal is with the boss.
Okay.
The donuts and the drinks is for the office.
Okay.
That's the difference. It's for everybody.
Okay. I like that. That would be,
it works very, very well.
Going back to that dynamic of all female.
And again, I'm not, and I want to be careful and sensitive to this, but I also want to attend to the obvious that culturally speaking in the United States, that is a more common female dynamic than it is a male dynamic. So for example, men in a male office, you're not going to have a man come in and bring in homemade brownies that he baked for the weekend and bring it into the office. Right. They would say, that's weird. What are you doing? Female office, they would be like, oh, absolutely. This is wonderful. I'd love to get your recipe.
Right.
It's a very acceptable dynamic. And I think it also mends a lot of fences, builds a lot of bridges, other kinds of analogies of fixing stuff. Insert those right there.
I think that's a good suggestion.
But I would try both of those. I would try both of those. Then the third one that I would add to the list is try and go out to lunch with groups of people. So there's other admins or other people, say, hey, let's go out to lunch this Friday, or something to try and get people to see you in another way. If none of those work, so I would try that for 6 months. So that's my prescription for 6 months. If things are still really weird and awkward and not good after that, that would be a good point to say, all right, maybe I need to start looking for something else. Yeah. But the other piece of this is I would be curious as to what some of the reorgs have been going on around there. There's one more thing I don't know in this. I don't know how much of this is in her head and how much of this is really going on. And I don't want to discredit her. I know for her it's very real and she feels it. But it could just be that people are on edge. There's been reorgs. There's different dynamics.
Right.
There could be some funky rumor that's been spread about people. Who knows? So there could be some other elements that we don't see, and this is her interpretation of it.
Right. Well, I think sometimes in these situations, too, you can kind of feel like everyone's against you. And I think there, again, not to make light or dark of any other situation, but especially when there are more females, I feel like, you can almost feel like everyone's against me in those type of situations.
Yeah.
And then I have a question. So talking about rumors, how do you kill those rumors going as a branch of that?
That's a good one.
Who let Isaac on the show? I did that today, didn't I? I did that today. I let him on.
I tried to warn you.
Created a monster.
I did. Okay, so how do you kill those rumors? I think so. We'll go back to my trust formula. So for those of you that are new listeners to the show, welcome. And so the way to think about trust is so you got to put on your math hats. Okay. So it's authenticity plus vulnerability in parentheses. Okay. So everything in that kind of summation multiplied times credibility equals trust. So the idea is if credibility goes to zero, or if authenticity plus vulnerability goes to zero, there's not going to be any trust. Mm-hmm. So when you have rumors, the way you dispel that, rumors come from people not being able to really see what's going on, so they make up stuff. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so you have to move the needle on either authenticity or vulnerability. You have to share more transparency into what's going on. And the way you would do that is lunches or coffees or just more time for people to kind of get to know you and see kind of what's going on in your head.
Mm-hmm. Something that I've seen too, and going back to corporate world, is sometimes, you're quiet and you're very focused, and sometimes, obviously this is the B word, they think that you're a B word, man or guy. I mean, mostly it's for the woman side, but for the guy it's more like, oh, he's focused, or he's his ego. So those kind of rumors that maybe the lady that sent the question, how do you, let's say she's very friendly with the boss, but she's very hard worker, but very focused and tries to get things done. How can you be more open for male and female as well on that side?
Yeah, so there's another really important principle, true at work, true at home. In absence of communication, people always assume the worst. So that's just very true at home and at work. So if they can't read you, they're not going to assume good things. They're immediately going to go to a negative thing.
Right.
He doesn't care about me. She's not nice, whatever it happens to be. So you want to counter that. Now, again, one way is to share more what's going on in your head, but the other way to do it is, to Isaac's point, is be more proactive in complimenting people. Because people like people who like them. Mm-hmm. It's just the basic human nature. So even if you're quiet, maybe you're not a real social person, you don't really go, you're not outgoing, you don't want to go out to lunch with people. But when you notice someone doing a good job, just send them a note. Say, hey, thank you so much for doing that, Whitney. When you did that, it was really, really good. When you chewed chips on my last show, that was excellent, to make a point.
Now we're going to be talking about how I botched it. Derailed it.
So, but I think compliments go a long way. So I think that's the other thing I would add to this, to Isaac's comment, which I think was a really good one. How do you overcome those rumors?
Right.
Compliments, which we could go back to our listener. And that could be another thing to add into the list, is be more proactive in complimenting people. And you don't do it in a broadcast way. Then it does look more like kissing up.
Right.
Where you compliment the person, you CC everybody else in the office. That's not necessary. It's going to be more personal if you just do it one-on-one, individually. You'll have more impact. And if you do it with everybody over time, everyone's going to be like, oh, I like that Whitney.
Right.
She's good. She likes me.
Well, and it breaks down barriers, too, because you just kind of relax when you feel comfortable around someone. And that's a good way to feel comfortable, is by the other person giving you a compliment.
Yeah, just makes you feel good.
Works in networking, too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's a good point.
Right? It's how people feel. So you can counter rumors, counter misperceptions by, using more carrots than sticks.
And then the other thing you mentioned is don't be too authentic, though, right? Because it could go on the other side of the wheel. So being too raw could hurt you. That's what I hear you say all the time, most.
Yeah, that's true. You can go too far. I mean, you can go too far on authenticity. It has to be balanced with a level of appropriateness. But you want to share more about who you are. So the way I there's not a good label for that. I call it professional intimacy. So you're trying to build some level of intimacy at work where you know a little bit more about the people you're working with, but you still want to keep it professional. It's a professional intimacy.
That's good.
Yeah. So I don't need to know crazy stuff you did in college. Unless you really want to tell me, but you don't have to tell me.
Remember, it's like dating.
Yeah. Too much too soon. Absolutely. There are so many other analogies we can use. How many more analogies can we butcher today? And speaking of butchering, our time is up, so it's time for me now to close this show. And this is where I tend to struggle the very most. So here we go. So thank you all for joining us on the show. Continue the fight for eliminating and fighting back dysfunction in our lives, and listen to us every Tuesday at 9 a.m. on Facebook Live when we drop a new edition of The Brandon Smith Show. So you can catch us at facebook.com/Brandon Smith, WPT for WPT Therapist. And you can follow us on social media at Twitter at The WP Therapist, or on LinkedIn, Facebook, the like. I'm not a hard guy to find. And if you want to learn more about what I do and what we do, if you Google The Workplace Therapist and go to www.theworkplacetherapist.com, there's plenty of resources out there to make your working lives and careers that much healthier and better. So until then, have an awesome week and an awesome life. I'm Brandon Smith, and I'm the Workplace Therapist. My entire purpose and passion in life is one singular thing, and that's to help you live a life free from dysfunction. And let's be honest, folks, dysfunction is everywhere. Our bosses, our coworkers, our neighbors, even that grumpy barista that pours your coffee. And sometimes, that dysfunction stares back at us in the face when we're getting ready in the mornings and we see ourselves in the mirror. Well, at the end of the day, life and work should not have to suck. The purpose of this show is to help you overcome those roadblocks in your life to help you realize the life you've always wanted.